is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
We need to get community. We need this thing to be bigger than just our little circle of players and coaches.
Are you kidding me? Touchdown, Oregon!
With 2 seconds on the clock. He hits it!
That's the bigger picture in this thing, allowing the community to celebrate the hard work, blue-collar mentality this group brings to the table.
And the Ducks have won it! The Ducks have won!
We get to struggle together, and we get to have joy together.
The Ducks are Pac-12 champions!
I am so proud right now to be the head coach at Oregon.
Oregon's a Fiesta Bowl champion in a 12-win season.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck Athletics.
A lot to cover today. Tip-Off Tuesday coming up. We'll dive in with Kevin McKenna, Kelly Graves, Ula Chamberlain, and Cario Oquindo today on the Basketball Coaches Show. Rivalry week for Oregon women's basketball, a road trip to Los Angeles coming for the men. We'll cover all of that. Also, Duck softball season begins next week, and the head coach, Melyssa Lombardi, will join us in the Country Financial Studio coming up in just a little while. Some thoughts on a few other programs as well. Oregon lacrosse just did Media Day this morning. Oregon alumna Jess Drummond, her first year as the head coach. We'll talk a little lacrosse coming up. A lot to cover. But first, it's one of our favorite times of the year. It's the first time in the new year that we talk with Senior Associate Athletic Director H.J. Cohn. He's in charge of the Duck Athletic Fund, which is a fancy way of saying he covers a lot of ground around Oregon athletics. H.J. Cohn is here with us. H, how are you?
I'm good.
Happy
Thanks for
New
having
Year.
me.
How long do you say Happy New Year?
It's done. I actually had a quite forward conversation with someone the other day when they did say that to me.
Was it Rob Mosley?
No, it wasn't. It was just some random person in the store and thought, you know what? This is a moment I should not be afraid of and approach it as a leader and say, ma'am, that's just not appropriate anymore. So I did.
Happy 2024.
And I really hope I showed my kids what leadership looks like.
That's it. Yep, that was it. Well, it is the first time, though, that we've talked to you since football season came to a close. First time that we've talked with a number of things that have happened around Oregon athletics, so some good things to cover. Football season review. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, no secret, wonderful. It was a great season, and it's interesting because when you look at football – and you really focus in, call it 3 months more or less, right? September, October, November, and we were fortunate to go into December, not only with a Pac-12 championship, but also into the new year with a New Year's Six bowl game. But then you factor in signing day and the recruiting efforts that Coach Lanning and staff have really elevated, which was already a pretty high bar. And so when you look at that, football kind of as a year-round. From an external-facing standpoint, we have some National Signing Day events coming up and as we approach February. But additionally, on the internal side, from a ticketing standpoint, there is a lot of excitement. We have about 5,000 new ticket requests, which is the most I've seen year over year in my 14 years. And then you factor in on the ticketing side some pretty great matchups coming to Autzen, but then also some interest from our fans and supporters that are have a desire to go to some new venues as we transition to the Big Ten. So a lot going on, a lot of excitement around that program. Like I said, even though there's not home football games or away football games and college football season has officially wrapped up, there's still a ton to do and a ton of excitement around it.
And isn't that so true of the way that the calendar works now? I mean, it's more of a different season than an off season, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is about recruiting, and signing day is coming up to complete the class. It's about getting ready for spring football, the off-season workouts like you alluded to. I mean, it really is a year-round operation now for football.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, ironically, the NFL on TV right there, they do a good job at it too, right? You have the combine, and then you have draft day, and you have events leading up to the season, and so they treat it as a year-round project as well as like we do. And when you factor in, like I said, moving transitioning to the Big Ten, it really is going to be full go ahead between now and our first game. So it'll happen quick, but there will be a lot of heightened awareness and demand around not only season tickets but minis. I know a lot of chatter I've heard is Ohio State coming to Eugene, Washington coming to Eugene, the finished up runner-up in the national championship, as we know, and a number of other new opponents that we predominantly have not traditionally faced, if you will. So a lot of excitement around the ticketing side, and we're really close to finalizing some of those. But I would say there is going to be we have to continue internally look at how do we add value to season ticket holders. And the number one thing that we're discussing is, what does that Ohio State game look like? Because there is a ton of chatter, like I mentioned, externally facing that we continue to hear on the phone lines, inbound calls, and we just have to approach that to make sure we're giving the most value to our season ticket holders and donors because we know there is going to be high demand there.
Well, look, I mean, that's what drives the thing, right? I mean, the season tickets, it does so much. Even I think about, like, the impact of continuity of fans, and like having that opportunity to be at games like that's fun to have that generating again.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen that in the last 2 years. When you go back 2 seasons ago, UCLA game gained a lot of traction pretty far out with Chip coming back, and then this last season we had 4 true hard sellouts, all in advance of the game. Sometimes you get close with some walk-ups, but for the most part between Colorado, Washington State, Oregon State, and USC. You start to realize that had I just got season tickets, I actually would have a lot more value knowing I wanted to go to those games. Listen, I'm not going to knock it. I'm not the best planner when buying airline tickets, and I wait till the last minute as well, even though I know I'm going on that trip. But it's a similar concept, right? And when you look at the slate of opponents we have coming in, not only for 2024, and I think that's the mindset a lot of these, that 5,000 person inquiry list or ticket inquiry list is looking at, is saying, okay, I recognize 2024, but when you look at 25, 26, and when the Big Ten announced the home and home matchups, or home and away rather matchups for the foreseeable future, it allowed fans, particularly season ticket holders, to know what they're getting and what will be coming, in this case, to Eugene. And there's a number of great potential matchups on there. I also would recognize and be remiss if I didn't say that regardless of who's coming to Eugene, right? Oregon football is still playing that day.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter who we're playing, and I truly say that because this last season I think captured that really well. There seemed to be a connection between this team, certain individuals, starting with Coach Lanning, and kind of became a figure that people really grasped onto, not only in our community but all over the country, of Duck alumni, Duck fans, Duck supporters, that really became entrenched with this team, and then the likes of Bo and many others, and the accolades that followed with the success. So I think our fan base is really understanding that the value of a season ticket right now, getting in before we go into the Big Ten, is going to pay dividends for them when those highly demanded games come up, and tickets are significantly higher than what they were originally promoted at because of dynamic pricing, and also if you can get one. Right. So I'm really excited about the future of Oregon football.
That's awesome. I think that you and I have talked about this a little bit before, like that financial model, it matters, right? Like, it matters to the athletic department, but it matters to fans too. And you touched on that there's some finalizing still going on in tickets. Anything else that you want to share on the ticketing front for football moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're kind of finalizing some of those dates. We have our seat selection process. You can sign up for a free appointment and just see what's available. There's nothing to it outside of the fact that you can log in at your time and look at what availability and what pricing is maybe fits your model.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people to do that. Part of that 5,000 ticket waiting list, or not waiting list, but request list, which we'll be able to fill all those on a season basis, is going to be just educating some people and understanding, okay, one, there's great seats available potentially. Two, I can find a price point that fits my budget. If I'm a family of 4, I might be looking at different seats than if it's I'm retired of just 2 of us and want a club section, for example. So I think that once we go through seat selection in mid to late February, we will roll out a timeline of when our group sales go on, our mini plans go on, our single game sales go on, what will be limited, potentially Ohio State, whatever single game opportunities are left, who has access to those even. Last year we did not go on sale to the general public with USC tickets.
Right.
We had such high demand, we were unable to, and the best way to get it to go to that game was to buy a mini that the USC game was involved with, or season tickets. And again, dating back to last year, when you looked at if you got season tickets up front, you had a guaranteed ticket, the same location, to one of those 4 that ended up selling out, in addition to some other games. So, no, we're really close. We will be announcing those specific dates on the minis, the groups, the single game opportunities that come about. But again, I would recommend at least going on and looking at the opportunities prior to that.
And on that note too, like there's always improvements that happen, and there's some consistency with everything in life, but definitely changes and improvements. And there were some that fans experienced at Autzen Stadium with the game day experience, the Matthew Knight Arena experience. And I wanted to drill down on that with you a little bit, like the Autzen Stadium survey that went out to fans. I know you guys are always looking for feedback. You're smiling as I say that, but like, H.J., I think that's great. Like I like that the fans have the opportunity to share some of that feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very transparent and open. I mean, the survey we put out, we were very clear, and it is simply a survey. We are gathering information. It's an exploratory process of modernizing or updating Autzen Stadium. I mean, I think that rumbling has been out there for a long time of north side, north side, north side. Well, it also, we'd be foolish not to want to receive feedback, positive or negative, of how we can improve things. 2 years ago, we ended up putting in the brand new scoreboard and sound system throughout the entire venue, benefiting the entire venue. And that really stemmed from quite a bit of feedback on the audio within Autzen Stadium. And when we went out and privately fundraised for the whole thing, that was a great success that benefited everyone. But that really stemmed from an original survey or two. So yes, we are excited about the survey we recently put out. I think we received over 3,600 responses.
Nice.
I warn you, it's not a 5-minute survey. But there's a reason behind that, because we want to get into specifics. You want to get in the weeds, and you got to take some time to do that. So getting those results and then taking them next step internally to review them and figure out where can you invest and potentially improve that game day experience for the most part, or say, hey, let's continue to put more money aside here and invest in this area that's already going well versus fixing something. So we're reviewing all that, and certainly want to thank the fans that have filled that out.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I mean, I've said this from the start. Like, I really appreciate working at a place that does take all that feedback, though. I mean, there are a lot of places that we all know what I'm talking about that never ask for feedback, that never do a survey like this. So I'm a fan. Like, as a fan, I hope that fans like that we're doing something like that. And then I'm sure there will be a conversation that comes from that survey, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of updates for Matthew Knight Arena this offseason as well, and some of that was fan feedback driven. Some of that was talking internally with the programs and where can we add value. And one of those has been the students and the pit crew behind the close to the opposing team bench behind the basket. The pit crew has been wonderful. Something that we are going to continue to try and create that home court advantage. Matthew Knight Arena has provided that home court advantage that we've seen with extended streaks. And so if this could add value to that little thing, again, that wasn't necessarily that was dictated by the general fan or a season ticket holder. That was internally saying, how can we improve the fan experience from the pit crew standpoint and create a tough place to play? So again, we're always listening. Can we fix everything overnight? Certainly not. I hope people recognize that. But we would, like I said, be remiss if we weren't listening and trying to get better every day.
Yeah, I like that. H.J. Cohn joining us, Senior Associate Athletic Director. On the football front still, just for a moment, a lot of signing day events coming up. Chance to finish off the class next Wednesday, and then before you know it, it's going to be football season again.
Yeah, really exciting. Like I said earlier, Coach Lanning and staff, and I do really want to emphasize staff because it really is a team effort of what goes into recruiting on any sport for that matter. But as we're talking about football, Coach Lanning's leadership and vision, and you've got a recruiting department over there, assistant coaches, and it goes way beyond that. A lot of people think about recruiting on the road, but when you're hosting student or potential student athletes and their families here, there's so many people throughout the university involved, and it goes beyond athletics, to be honest. So our signing day events are kind of a celebration moment for all the hard work that so many have put in. Our Portland event next Wednesday is sold out.
Nice.
I think it's like true hard sellout. First time we've had that since transitioning over to Nike World Headquarters, so really excited about that. The one in Eugene, I want to say on the 12th, still has availability. It's at Matthew Knight Arena. It's one that we are, again, it's a celebratory event to be around our coaches, our staff, our student athletes from the football program, and we try to make it as opportunistic as possible. And when I say that, I mean there's a free ticket, and there's a GA section that's free. There is no hard cost to come. There is other areas and opportunities where you can reserve a better seat and have some other benefits that go with it. But the Eugene signing day is definitely accepting guests still, and like I said, should be an evening to celebrate.
More details on GoDucks.com. But yeah, general admission again for that event at Matthew Knight Arena. But some VIP offerings, if I
Sure.
put it that way.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. I mean, I feel like this is always a great check-in for a completion of the class, and certainly the transfer portal has changed the way that this time of year works around college football. But it is sort of, to me, like the kickoff day for a new season, right? Because then we get into spring ball, and then before you know it, it's fall camp. And I always feel like this is like, all right, we're resetting and then looking ahead to the next year, and get to do that a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, what I referenced earlier is the general public, fans, season ticket holder, wherever you fall on that spectrum, has followed recruiting more and more every year.
Yeah.
And there's multiple reasons behind that. There's a lot more ways to access that information. But again, part of Coach Lanning's excitement around the program has been tied to recruiting. Obviously, we know it takes good student athletes to produce wins on the field and have a successful season. He's done a great job of that.
He's H.J. Cohn. We're going to get a timeout. Come back. More. It's Athletic Director Tuesday. I got a few surprises for him.
Okay. I got one back for you, so don't worry about it.
I knew it was coming.
Be on your toes, baby.
Back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you, because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you, because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays? The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. It is Athletic Director Tuesday in the Country Financial Studio. H.J. Cohn's here. Nice shoe choice today, buddy.
Thank you.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
You know, you always have a plan when you come in for our interview and our wonderful conversations. Do you want a surprise now, or are you going to wait until later?
No, go for it. You can hit me.
No, I was asking you for the surprise
Dude,
for me.
Come on.
All
Not
right.
my first rodeo. I'm not showing my hands.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
No.
Talk a little bit of hoops.
Yeah.
You know, coming off a tough loss, as Coach Altman put it, a big opportunity missed, but you touched on the home court advantage that Matthew Knight Arena has been, and I think it's been awesome to see that, and I really feel like if I was any other team in the Pac-12 right now, I probably would want to trade places with Oregon men's basketball, because I'll tell you, like, so many injuries, so many different identities and rotations that this team has had, still tied for first in the Pac-12 standings right now.
Yeah, I mean, what Coach has done historically throughout his career is no secret. I think that's almost something to where our fans
take for granted a little.
I wouldn't even say take for granted. Expect that. Oh, March is almost here. Here we
mean.
go.
Yeah.
And or February, if you will. And this year is no different, right? When you factor in the injuries and the amount of different starting lineups that we've seen. What I'm obviously excited for, just like everyone else, is what is Coach Altman got in his bag of goodies, and what can he pull out and get ready for. I think it's kind of getting to that point of year where when you look at and you almost go backwards from the Pac-12 tournament in our case, how many weeks are left, and starting to hone in on what that rotation looks like. Whether that's 8 or 9 guys. Great problem to have for basketball and Coach Altman's staff this year is there's a lot of talent on the team. And, as things play themselves out, what does that rotation look like? But also every person being ready. I go back to, and I had this conversation with a lot of people over the last couple of weeks because as Dante came back and Biddle came back, you have a guy in Jackson Shellstead starting as a true freshman. And I look back at our Final Four run during 2016-17 basketball season, and I think Casey Benson at the time was a 3-year starter.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, at least I'm selling this story to folks I've been talking to, it was day 2 of the Maui Invitational that Casey came off the bench and Peyton started. And Peyton, I don't think he lost his starting spot ever since then in his career at Oregon. But where I'm going with all this is they had a lot of talent on that team, and guys really bought in. And I think that's the case with this team too. From my perspective from afar is these guys really get along. They want to be coached by Coach Altman and that staff. And so when I say I'm excited for what the next couple months brings, I'm not missing a game in Matthew Knight Arena, I can tell you that, because of the product on the floor, but also the potential to continue to get better. And Saturday, yes, great team in Arizona. Talking to one of the coaches earlier, said they're a great team. I mean, they really are, and that showed. But that's not to say Oregon can't beat them and other great teams. And so when I look at the rest of the season and the amount of home games we have left, very excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to be on the road with them this week. I feel like a bounce back. That's something that this team has done a lot this year. I'm with you, and I think that too. The reason I say fans maybe take it for granted, I'm guilty of it. Coach Altman's gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
They can drop a couple in January. It'll work out. I mean, the record after Valentine's Day with Coach Altman now in his 14th year, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing how often that this has happened. But that doesn't mean that the home court advantage could help you with a few earlier games earlier in the year. That's kind of what Coach has been talking about.
Well, I think that there's no secret there. I mean, that's certainly what he's been referencing for a while now, and even after last season, saying, hey, this is a place we need to create a home court advantage. If we all enjoy the success that we've seen that can happen in March, it doesn't just turn on March 1st.
Right.
It happens in February and January, and really the whole season, but really January and February when you're going up against the Power 5 in your conference and saying, okay, how do we not lose at home? How do we make sure home court is our priority? And then carrying that momentum for the guys and the staff on the road in those same hostile environments that we want to be prideful of, and saying, okay, no, we beat them at home. We know how to do it. Let's go on the road and have an upset or go sweep a series on the road. And a great opportunity this weekend down at the LA schools for the men.
No doubt. Also, men's golf, you're a sport administrator for men's golf. The season is back underway here.
Yeah, they've it's funny, they're ready, I would say. They're competing right now for travel squad for their upcoming tournament. But, we finished the Jake late last year, and of course we thought, okay, great, Oregon weather, no matter what, they're going to have a place to practice, and then this ice storm comes. And so a little ironic at the time that, even after only being open for a couple months, that we couldn't access it. But the staff down at Emerald Valley and Jim Pliska and Lane Wortman have been nothing but phenomenal to help us and our student athletes be prepared. So I'm actually really excited to see the student athletes and what they've been able to take in a short time frame within the Jake and the technology specifically as it pertains to putting and chipping, and see if they can apply that in the spring season.
Yeah, the technology is amazing. I mean, if you haven't seen the video, and we've talked about it on the show, both with Coach Martin and with Coach Radley, the way that facility embraces the technology of golf, it's just cool. I don't have any other way to describe it. It's beneficial, but it's also just got a flash factor to it. That's Oregon.
That's Oregon, yeah, no doubt.
National Girls and Women in Sports Day is coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to celebrate that a little bit around here.
Yeah, an event we've really come to put a lot of time and resources in, and we have historically put it around a women's basketball game. So Oregon women's basketball playing this Sunday, and prior to that game in the arena, you have to have a ticket to the game to get in. We invite our female student athletes to come out and coaches to come out to kind of do a mini clinic with all the sports in the practice courts. And so you can sign up online at goducks.com/ NGWSD.
You got
that
there.
right, Joey? Okay.
NGWSD, National Girls Women in Sports Day.
Yeah,
nice
so you can
job.
sign up and for kids 6th grade and under, and a great chance. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I bring my kids to it every year, and a chance for them to see, what not only college athletes look like and how they act and carry themselves, but really off the court in a leadership and how they communicate and how they're teaching to provide that mentorship role of my daughter or son seeing, okay, this is what a college student athlete does and how they give back to the community at the same time. So to be at a high level and be successful at your sport is one thing, but when you wear that Oregon uniform, it's about what's on the front and carrying your weight on and off the court, in campus, in your community, and this is a great opportunity to show that.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, I think that I am even guilty of forgetting that sometimes, that, like, there's a lot of community involvement and pressure that comes being a public figure and a student athlete. And talking to more and more student athletes, I can't tell you how often all of them really appreciate that role. They like being able to do things like this and talk to the community because they, once upon a time, were the kids that were at an event like this.
Yeah, no doubt.
It makes a big difference. Spring sports coming up.
Yeah, we have our spring sport ticketing on sale this Friday. So all of our spring sports that are ticketed, the tickets go on sale this Friday for single games, and have a lot of great teams returning. I mean, I know you talked about lacrosse a little bit, but you got acro, you got baseball and softball, who are really excited about baseball. Just wrapped up their first pitch dinner, which was a tremendous success, and you got the Diamond dinner coming up this Friday. So a lot of excitement as we kick off those spring sports. To say the least.
I'm looking forward to it. Anything else? What's on your mind?
Excited for spring sports. I mean, we kind of hit on it. You're right in kind of that thick of it with basketball in the Pac-12 play. You get to that postseason, March Madness. Whether you're a big basketball fan or not, you can't help but hear about March Madness and the excitement that ensues with that, and starting with the Pac-12 tournament for both men's and women's basketball programs. Yeah. And then we kick off with a lot of other sports coming to Eugene and opportunities for fans to go out and hopefully get some good weather.
He's H.J. Cohn. Letting you off easy.
All good. Which is faster, hot or cold?
Neutral.
Hot.
Okay.
You can catch a cold. Boom. Dad joke.
That was good. How long you chamber that one for?
I got it this morning from my friend, and so I was like, I got to use this somehow. It worked out great.
That was good.
Shout out Cam Leo.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I feel like you're the kind of guy that would do an interview like this and would have somebody give you, like, the word that you have to work in, find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that working for you.
Yeah, meow.
You got your Pepsi, though. You were fueled up
today.
did.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
That was well done. I had a couple ideas for you. I was going to make some golf jokes for you, but I never got there, so it's okay.
Yeah.
We've got you coming up again in about 6 weeks.
Bring it on. I love it.
He's H.J. Cohn. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Senior Associate Athletic Director. When we come back, we're talking with Melyssa Lombardi. Duck softball season approaching rapidly. That's next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
My name is Teresa Barber. I was in the United States Navy, and I served overseas in the Middle East and Africa. Early on in my career, I had a commander that taught our suicide prevention training, and the very next day, he took his own life. 90% of suicide attempts involving a gun are fatal. My way of continuing my service is to help protect my community by being a responsible gun owner and by storing firearms safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council. This message is for Karina, our mom who finished her high school diploma at age 28. Hi, Mom. It's Amethyst and Nicholas. Congratulations on getting your diploma. You worked so hard and have taught us so much. We love you.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. It's softball season, folks. Melyssa Lombardi is here, head coach. Hey, God, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back to the studio. We start our regular Tuesday appearances. So how was the off season? What'd you do? Did you relax?
Yes. Totally relaxed.
That was the most honest answer to that question, I think, that we've ever gotten here in the studio. But really, how was the off season? Since we last talked to you, some new additions have happened.
Yeah, no, really, really good. I cannot say enough about the fall that we had, and just how intentful our team was. And I'm just so excited about the senior class, super senior class, and what they are doing.
Tell us a little bit about fall ball. I mean, what were some of your focuses? What were some of your takeaways?
I just think that, we lost two big leaders in Tara McGowan and Allie Bunker. They've been leading since day one. Yeah. And so now, the question was always like, okay, well, who is it going to be? And we have between seniors and super seniors, we've got 9 of them. And
wow.
They they've embraced it. I remember our first thing we did when we got here is we went on our retreat. And from the retreat to now, the leadership that I've seen from this group has been tremendous.
That's cool.
It's been excellent.
That's really cool. So senior day, get ready. That ceremony, there's going to be some tears with 9 of them.
Yeah,
right?
It's going to take 2 hours.
Yeah, hey, that's okay. But hey, how valuable is that experience though? I feel like in every college sport right now, like the older rosters tend to win games, don't they?
There's something about having a large upperclassmen group that if I was an opponent, I would be very uncomfortable with Oregon.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play you all right now.
I wouldn't
with
either.
That veteran status. Also, all the polls are now out. Number 13 in USA softball, number 14 in D1 softball, number 16 in Softball America, and number 15 today in the NFCA poll. Do you care about the polls at this point? It's nice, I guess, to have some rankings early.
Yeah, no. I always just in the past, I'm always so I don't care where we start. It's about where we finish. But just you look over the years and how this works. It's important where you start because the parity in softball is just so huge.
Yeah.
That if you start, I think of last year we were lower and it took us all year to get to where we are starting right now. So I think this is a great starting point for us.
I feel like it sets an expectation too. And it's funny, the internal expectation I feel like is often higher than the external expectation, but it does kind of level set, I suppose, for fans out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel good with where we're at. I think we've got an extremely tough schedule this year, which is what we need in order for us to be where we want to be at the very end. So I'm looking forward to it.
A few additions and a few changes since we last talked. So let's start with the great freeze of 2024. How'd the team handle it? I know that it's thrown some wrenches into your equation.
Like champs.
Good.
Because, at this group, we talk a lot about being in adverse situations and how are you going to handle those adverse situations. We talk about future. There's going to be bumps in the road and during our season. And right now, what are solutions to deal with that? And so I think this team has done really well with just adverse situations. They know that those couple days that we got shut down, if we have to have those days, then we are not in a situation right now. We're not in the situation that we need to be in. We're not prepared.
But the photos of the Jane were excellent, by the way.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, you can't make the Jane look bad. We know that. But
never.
it's funny, in our industry, right? I was sitting here thinking, we're never going to get very many opportunities to take a picture like that at all these different facilities, and so you got to have them. You got to have them for the record book, got to have them for the archive. But, I say that a little bit jokingly, but, like, it impacts your agenda. It impacts your schedule. Your first week changed around, didn't it?
It does. And, I would be fibbing if I said, like, I was uncomfortable not having those days. But I also do know that the work that these guys have put in, we're okay. Like, those days off, it's okay.
How's practice been then since you've been able to settle into the routine?
Really good. Really good. These guys are just on a mission. Like that's what I've just been saying about this team is that they're really connected on the field, connected off the field. Like they're really understanding how to demand excellence from each other. And I just think it's attributed to this large senior class. I think sometimes if you have a big senior group, it can be either really good or it can be uncomfortable because you either have a group that they're just like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm just ready. I'm ready for the next chapter. And so they just try to get through their senior year, or you have a senior group like this that were 2 games away last year from going to the World Series, that have unfinished business, that have a certain way that they want to finish and do not want to be denied.
I feel like there's been this feeling, I guess, from me, and I should tell everybody, like, the softball offices are down the hall from the studio. So maybe I can feel this energy more from you all than other programs, but, like, I feel like all offseason there's been a little chip on everyone's shoulder. You're nodding as I say that. Like, where'd that come from? What's that been like in the offseason? Feels like a hungry group this year.
Just really hungry group. Just seeing, like, it's being 2 games away.
Yeah.
You're right there, 2 games away. 2 games either take you or 2 games either you're done, and we were done. And the experience, unbelievable because of what it's doing for us right now, in the fall and preparing us for what's next. But we don't want to be 2 games short this year.
Yeah.
We want to go.
Well, at what point do you start to settle in on your lineup? And I guess maybe the bigger way to ask that question, break your team down for us right now. What are you seeing out there?
Just, like you look, if you were to look in through our lineup right now, you just see just a heavy, like older lineup. You look at Paige at short. I mean, she's a junior, but she's been there since day one. Right. KK, you'll see KK moving over to second. She was at first base. You'll see her playing first as well. She can do both. But we need to fill that hole with Allie leaving. And KK came in as a shortstop. I mean, all of our infield, every one of them have played shortstop. So she's done a really good job over there. Melyssa, Daniel, big lefty hitter for us. That was kind of in and out of the lineup last year. I think you'll see her more at first. The outfield, there's a lot of different combinations, but Hannah Delgado was great for us in center field. Kai, you saw her finish out the season there, and Ariel and right. Taya has been at third for the past couple years. You just have a lot of athletes on the field with experience, and then you have Val and you have Emma. Same thing, older, tons of experience that you'll see behind the plate.
I think everybody wants me to ask you, and you did a little bit there, covered like second base and catcher. Right there in the middle of the diamond. Like, you had some really big-time players there. You alluded to the leadership, but some good combinations maybe to fill in those spots.
Yeah, no, I mean, those guys graduate, and you're like, okay, what are we going to do next? I feel like that was the big question. And then just watching this group coming in the fall, they're like, this is what we're going to do next, coach.
Cool.
Which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then, you look on the mound, and you have a freshman, but you have you have an older pitching staff as well. So I just think in the past years where it's like we're needing to gain the experience, we need to get to a regional. Now we need to learn how to win a regional. Now we need to get to a super regional. Like we were needing that. Like that is all kind of bottled up and ready for this year.
The phrase is used, the analogy is used a lot about it's like climbing a mountain, right? You've got the pegs in the mountain from previous years. Like that's kind of what you're describing, right? Like there's now some tracks treaded, I guess, on those mountaintops. And I don't know, it feels like that's kind of what it takes to build a program, isn't it?
No, you're on point. That's exactly it.
Sometimes I get lucky, folks. I want Scott to cut that off, and we will remember that one forever. Coach Lombardi talking softball. You talk about the pitching coach, and I feel like some different combinations. A versatile team, and I know that's a focus for you in recruiting. You like to have versatile athletes that can do different things.
That's who we are. That's who we've always been, and that's who we need to continue to be. It's such a long journey. You have things that happen along the way, and you've got to plug things up, and we have the ability to do that. So very versatile. I think you can look at us and see that we can score many ways, whether it's the long ball, whether it's situational hitting, whether it's short game. Our defense is solid. Our defense is really good. And then just a veteran pitching staff that's healthy.
Right.
We weren't healthy last year. Yeah. And I think of what we did and not being healthy last year. We're healthy this year and deep.
The healthiest teams are usually the ones that win.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you could be the most – I say this all the time, like how often have we seen the most talented teams out there, but then it's the healthiest ones that win at the end of the year? Like how big of a deal with that in mind is the off-season conditioning? I know that's really important. Then also, Coach, just having depth, like the ability to have different combinations if there's nicks, bruises along the way.
No, it's really important. I mean, the thing that we talk about is it all starts in the weight room. So, you get done with your season. What do these guys do when they go home?
Right.
And I think they do a good job of staying connected with each other. They've got a summer group text called Swole Ducks that helps them stay connected.
That's great.
And you know what? The Swole Ducks is our foundation, because what they do in that time is going to determine where we start in the fall.
No doubt.
So this group gets after it. This is a really, really strong group. And with what Coach KJ has done with them, like they're very, very strong. So you have that, and then it just from there, do we have to start at the bottom in the fall, or do we get to start at a higher level? And we start at a higher level.
Yeah, you want to hit the ground running, especially with the schedule that you have.
Yes,
right?
you have to.
We talked about this a little bit last time you were on the show, but now that the season is here, you scheduled up this year. Take fans through the scheduling process a little bit.
Gosh, I mean, I feel like we always play a top schedule. Every year at the end of the year, we're either the number 1 schedule, number 3 schedule. Like, we always play a tough schedule. But I think about opening weekend. I mean, we start off with Indiana,
right,
who is really, really, really good. And we will start to play them every year once we get into the big. But you start out with Indiana, right, who's a very well-coached team. They're good in all areas, have power, have pitching. And then from there you look at we will face Liberty. We will face Kansas, which I'm very familiar with.
Right.
They've always been good, and they're up and coming right now. You look at Clemson. I mean, Clemson, they were 2 games away from going to the World Series last year, and they matched up with Oklahoma, which they're matching up with the defending, national champion, defending
perennial
national
power.
Champions. Yeah. So if they match up with anybody else, they're probably at the World Series.
Yeah.
So you look at that, and then from there, we have Army to finish off with. So just right out of the gates, I think it's important right out of the gates. Can we show right out of the gates who we are?
Awesome.
Obviously, we're going to get better as the year goes along. That's just a part of it. But who are we right out of the gates? That's what I think is important.
We'll talk a little bit more about the big trip to Clearwater coming up. About as far as you can fly in this country. We'll talk about that more next week with Coach Lombardi. I did want to ask you, beyond this year, but since the last time you were on the show, a new addition to the roster. NCAA transfer rules means that Kayla Pollard will have to sit out, but a big-time addition to your team.
Big-time addition. I've known who she is since she was young. We're always out on the recruiting trail. You see, who's committed to where, and she goes by Lefty, so we call her Lefty.
I love that.
And she's a big lefty hitter. She hits with power. She's a middle infielder, but I've always been aware of who she was, and then just seeing an opportunity to get her to come be a Duck. I wish we could have her right now, but what's great is she gets to come in the winter and spring and train with us and really get caught up in what we're doing, and it'll put her ahead and ready for next year.
Also coming up, we talked about the ice storm shifting some things. The Diamond Dinner moving back a little bit. A chance to talk about that a little bit, Coach. It's coming up on Friday. giving.uoregon.edu/24SDD, Softball Diamond Dinner, if you need to get a ticket, if you haven't already. And good luck. I hear that it's filling up in the club room at Autzen.
It's packed. Like, we are going to have an unbelievable night. With the Diamond Dinner, what I can tell you is that I love the Diamond Dinner because we get to kick off the season every year with our fans, our supporters, our donors, our families, everybody involved with our program. Like, we get to celebrate the year that's coming up.
Cool.
And I think no other way to do it than the Diamond Dinner. We are going to have a packed house. We've got a lot of good things coming up. You know, Gwen Svekis is going to be our keynote, and I know she's going to come in and absolutely deliver. Our athletes are excited. I'm excited. We had to reschedule because of the weather. We had to push it back a couple weeks, and I was calling her to tell her that, and I'm like, please be able to, come. And she's like, Coach, I will not miss this. I will be there.
That's great.
And so cannot wait to see her. We got some fun stuff. It's going to be a great night. So we're looking forward to it.
Friday night, Diamond Dinner. That's really the official start to softball season, right? Like, there's the preseason practice, then you have this, then you're on the road, and we'll talk next week before you travel to Florida, Coach. So thanks for taking the time. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you again.
All right. Thanks, you too.
Quick timeout. We're going to come back, talk some hoops. Both Duck teams looking for a bit of a bounce back. That's next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you, because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you, because Toyota's got 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/23.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
And here's Heather with the weather.
Well, it's beautiful out there, sunny and 75, almost a little chilly in the shade. Now, let's get a read on the inside of your car. It is hot. You've only been parked a short time and it's already 99 degrees in there. Let's not leave children in the back seat while running errands. It only takes a few minutes for their body temperatures to rise, and that could be fatal.
Cars get hot, fast, and can be deadly. Never leave a child in a car. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. My thanks to H.J. Cohn. My thanks to Melyssa Lombardi for joining us. I talk a little bit of hoops here as the Ducks will hit the road for men's basketball tomorrow. Ryan Milano is going to be with you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll tell you, these are big games for the Ducks because USC has been playing a little bit better on the men's side. 7:30 on Thursday evening, Oregon men's basketball against USC in Los Angeles, televised on ESPN. And I understand that the Ducks are on a lot of national TV games, but look, there's more eyeballs, and that matters, I think, come committee and selection time. There's more eyeballs on the Ducks when they're on ESPN. We know that. So a 7:30 matchup on Thursday, and then the Ducks also are on ESPN2 on Saturday when they're in Los Angeles for a 7 o'clock tip-off. We'll have pregame half an hour before each of those tip-offs across the Oregon Sports Network, but I think these are big games. I mean, look, USC is still sitting at 2-7 in conference. UCLA has kind of figured some things out. They're at 4-5 in conference now. You got to find a way to win these games if you're the Ducks, especially because they are still tied for first place in the conference. Arizona and Oregon atop the league at 6-3. Colorado and Washington State right behind, those two at 6-4, half game back. But Colorado owns the tiebreaker with the Ducks right now. See if Oregon ends up getting a revenge game over Arizona at McHale Center, and maybe a revenge game at Matthew Knight Arena for the Ducks against Colorado. Got to stay on pace, I think. I feel like this is a big week for Oregon basketball, and I probably am going to end up saying that every week here moving forward. I'm aware of that. I feel like we probably will end up saying that from week to week. But also, look, here's why I think it's a big week. Even though Cal has figured some things out, they've played a little better in conference games than they did in non-conference, Arizona's hosting Cal. You got to think that this week Arizona's going to win that game. Arizona's probably going to get one more win, which means that in a perfect world, Oregon will have to keep winning to keep pace. That's not rocket science. I understand that that's just kind of the nature of the way that the standings are, and we'll see what happens as the season unfolds. But I feel like coming off that loss and figuring out what the rotation is going to look like for Oregon men's basketball now, Keyshawn Barthelomy's injury certainly looked severe when he was on the floor, I should say, on Saturday. What the rotation looks like, going to matter. We're talking with Kevin McKenna, Director of Player Personnel and Development, also talking with Carrie Oquendo on Tip-Off Tuesday this week. That show coming up in just a little while. Quick time out. When we come back, check of everything else around Oregon athletics, a little women's basketball too. Give you the schedule ahead on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Into the building for the first time after the shooting. It was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because feeling full can sound like this.
How did the interview go? I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
And like this.
Mom, I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/act now. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you in the Country Financial Studio. So Oregon women's basketball at home. This is a big week because it's rivalry week. I mean, anytime Oregon and Oregon State get together, there's always a little extra energy in the building. And it's a bit of a showcase game. 4 o'clock on Pac-12 Network on Sunday, the rivalry series, and some extra practice time for Oregon women's basketball. I feel like every coach, when we get to this time of year, where you have that 1 or 2 weeks where you've got a one-game schedule, you like that extra practice time. Gives you a chance to rest a little bit, but also work on a few things. And look, I know it sounds odd, but I think Coach Altman, Coach Graves would both agree with this. During the season, there's not as much practice time as maybe you think there is, because think about this for a moment. So today is a Tuesday. Well, yesterday, for men's basketball, for example, they practiced. Today, they'll practice. Wednesday, they'll practice, but it's a travel day for Oregon men's basketball tomorrow, so a shorter practice. Then just a shoot-around, kind of a walk-through, get a little sweat, get some shots up on Thursday, play the game. Friday, short practice, go over a few things getting ready for UCLA. Then UCLA, the game, and then normally I'd imagine the Ducks would take Sunday off. Like, there's only really 2, maybe 3 days of full hard practices. So it's difficult to adjust when you have guys get hurt, and it's also difficult to work on a few things that aren't opponent-specific. Well, in women's basketball's case, you have a little bit of extra practice time this week because they don't have a game on Friday. They can get ready for Oregon State, and I think this will be a week where the Ducks can work on Oregon-specific things, work on themselves, as the phrase would go. Kelly Graves going to meet with the media here coming up this week, but rivalry weekend for Oregon women's basketball, and it's a big opportunity. I mean, there's no secret that the Ducks have not had the season so far that they would have liked. You talk about how injuries have impacted the men. I still go back to an injury at the beginning of the season for Peyton Scott. That was the veteran point guard, the floor general presence that it feels like Oregon women's basketball has been missing this year. Injuries are the worst part of sports. There's no doubt about it. Now, attached to the Oregon women's basketball program still, Sabrina Ionescu. There's been rumblings of this. Rumblings of a three-point contest between her and Steph Curry, because Sabrina owns the record for most threes made in a, round, I think, or in an entire contest. No intern in the room is answering. So maybe she holds the record for both, a round and total three-pointers in a three-point contest. Well, I guess it's official now that there's going to be a three-point challenge as part of the All-Star festivities on Saturday, February 17th. Get to watch Steph versus Sabrina in a three-point challenge. I think we all know who the Ducks are rooting for. But here's what I want to say on that point. Like, Sabrina has done so much to elevate women's basketball in general, particularly Oregon women's basketball. She's really easy to root for, has her own custom shoe line that a lot of the men's basketball players are wearing. How cool is that? And now I get an opportunity to play against someone who's really transcended basketball in the NBA and Steph. That's great. I love that the NBA and the WNBA have done a lot of these sorts of crossovers. They've worked together exceptionally well. As a sports fan, bravo. And good luck, Sab. It's official now that the Ducks will be represented in a big way at the pro Duck level. All right, so men's basketball on the road this week. Also, men's tennis and women's tennis will be around. And Ryan Milano, he's watching the show. He just texted me that she owns the record for most points in a round. Can I just give her the record for most points in an entire contest? And the rules change, right? Like, there's been some different iterations to three-point contests over the years, so Milano's going to be with you sitting in this chair coming up. Men's tennis, though, and women's tennis also in action. Men's tennis is playing in Chicago on Friday, and women's tennis at the Student Tennis Center against Eastern Washington Friday afternoon. That's the schedule ahead for those two squads. And I was talking about golf earlier with H.J. Cohn. Well, women's golf, the season gets rolling, the spring season, that is, on Sunday. A lot of action around Oregon athletics. I'm hitting the road with basketball tomorrow. Tip-off Tuesday coming your way in just a little bit. See you then.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant